Howdy, Danny here again with McElroy Team Realty. Today is going to be our 2024 market update. And today I'll be discussing what's going on here in the Dallas-Fort Worth marketplace area. That includes the 9 counties that I sell in regularly. And we're going to discuss rates, mortgage interest rates of course, sales trends, price trends, and inventory levels, as well as where I think the market may be going. So let's dive in. So to begin with, let's start with interest rates. So many of my clients ask where they can find interest rates. My favorite place to see them is the Primary Mortgage Market Survey, which you can find at FreddieMac.com/PMMS. The only challenge with these rates is that they are not real rates, but are secondary market rates. So you'll need to add about 0.5% to these to see what the actual rate is that buyers are paying when they purchase a house. Here's a chart that I love to look at. So when I dial into this website, the beauty of it is I can select all the way back to when they started tracking rates back in 1970. And you can see they peaked in the 18% range in the early 1980s, and then they steadily declined for many, many years. If I go back 10 years, you'll see that the highest they've been in 10 years was 4.86. That's relative to today's rates all the way up at 7.5, peaking in October of last year before they began to decline and where they are today. So what does that mean to you as a consumer? It's very simple. It basically means that rates are much, much more difficult than they've been in a long, long time. So that's caused the next topic we're going to talk about, which is historic sales and transaction numbers, to be much slower than we've seen in recent history, but not that much slower. If I look at the data, in 2022, the entire market nationwide had about 5.1 million transactions, according to the National Association of Realtors. But the following year, 2023, there were only 3.8 million. So that sounds like a pretty big decline, and it was. That's well into the 27% range nationwide. But what we're seeing here in Dallas-Fort Worth is a totally different story. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go pull up the data directly out of MLS. Chances are you've heard one of two things out there if you're listening to market updates on the internet. You're either hearing one group that are clickbait, that are selling fear, saying the market's going to crash, the world's going to end, everything's going to come down, or you're hearing the other group that's saying everything's fine, just go ahead and buy and don't worry about it. Well, I'm going to show you the data without either of those bents, and I'm going to pull it directly out of the multiple listing service, and I'm going to show it to you raw, and I'm going to pull it up live so you can see that I'm not manipulating these numbers like a lot of those clickbait do. So to start with, I'm first going to pull up historic sales by year. As you can see, if I zoom in here, this is the only criteria I've chosen is these 9 counties, which are the 9 counties I sell that cover the entire Dallas-Fort Worth marketplace. First report I'm going to do is historic sales by year, and I'm going to click generate report, and this is live data you're looking at right out of MLS. Now what you're seeing is if you look down, you're looking at the purple line at the top that rides like this, and it dipped really low right here. That's 2020. That's when COVID shut down, and we saw a big decrease for the COVID shutdown when everybody was ordered to stay at home. Then we saw this massive surge, and we peaked out higher than we've ever seen the sales happen in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Then it had the normal seasonal trend going down into the fall and a slight bump going into December. Well, then the following year, the next year was 2021, and it's that green line, and look how high it is. It's almost as high as the purple, but not quite. And then of course the next year is 2022, and you can see it's a little bit lower than the green year of 2021. That's because rates started to go up in 2022 slightly. That's when things began to change. By 2023, they were in full skyrocket mode. And what I want you to see here that's important, and the reason that I show you this particular report is look at 2023 sales data. 2023 ended up not far off 2022. It's almost the same transaction volume as 2022. So what that means is we saw a lot less reduction in transactions in Dallas-Fort Worth than they did nationwide. We didn't see near as much of a slowdown in the Metroplex as the rest of the country did. So if I go to the data on the chart and I pull it up here, you can see the numbers month by month. If you look at the months, they're very, very similar. Not a lot of difference between 2022 and 2023. That's why the data is deceiving. When you listen to the national media and you look at how they're complaining about how slow real estate is because interest rates are so high, but you're not seeing price declines here in Dallas-Fort Worth, it's because our sales pace didn't really decline that much. We still had plenty of demand because our market has plenty of relocations. We're experiencing the Great Migration, where people are leaving the states that are harder to afford and live in, like New Jersey, Illinois, New York, California, and they're coming to the states that have lower tax bases and lower costs of living and more opportunity, like Texas and Georgia and Florida and so on. So that's what we're seeing. It's very, very accurate. Now, if I go to the next report, which shows historic sales price trend, this one really tells the story, because this report, let me go to the chart and zoom in. If you look at this one, it's a really good indicator, because as you see, prices for the past 10 years have been gradually going up, and you see those little seasonal dips every year that we always see. Those little seasonal dips are the end of the year when people aren't buying as much. But look at the long-term trend, it just continues to climb up gradually. Now here's what's very unique. This section right here, you can see that that's between January of 2020 to approximately somewhere around, call it April of 2022. That's what I call the COVID jump. And the COVID jump, we saw massive increases in prices. And this was the same everywhere nationwide. But here in DFW, prices are up approximately anywhere from 30 to 50%, depending on your location and submarket. But that jump peaked when rates were at their lowest, around 3%, and that jump occurred and ended around April of 2022. Then we saw a short decline down into 2023 and a leveling off, and that's going into this year. But notice that decline didn't make up for anywhere near that COVID jump. So even though we came back down a little bit, we're still up a good 30 to 40% in nearly every submarket in average price. And that's for a couple of reasons from my point of view. The first reason is population growth and market demand. There's still a tremendous amount of population growth and job growth in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. And that's why we're not seeing prices decline. The last thing I want to talk about is I want to go into the historic count of active listings to show you what the inventory looks like. Now this one tells the real story for why we're not seeing prices come down. It's because there's just not enough inventory. Now this graph goes all the way back to 2019 and it shows how many active listings there were. This is a historic count of active listings, and if you notice, we had our all-time low right here during the COVID era between January 2021 and January 2022. Inventory climbed a little bit, but it's still not back to the pre-COVID numbers. So we still don't have enough houses for all the buyers that are looking for homes here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. This is one of the reasons that new construction sales are so good. There's not enough pre-owned homes on the market. And more importantly, the vast majority of the buyers are locked into their current home because most of the people in the market here in DFW either bought a home during the COVID era when rates were low, or they refinanced during that area. So they have a locked in low interest rate that makes it to where it doesn't make sense to move. So the vast majority of people out there have no incentive to sell their house, and that's why we have less inventory than we have in historic times. Most people are locked into a great low rate at a pre-COVID price. So that's what we're seeing today. All right, so what does that mean? So what this means to you is that the market in Dallas-Fort Worth is still strong. The transaction volume is still good. There's still very, very steady, stable real estate. The one difference between the market now and what it was during COVID is there's actually some availability. When I show clients houses now, you can see several homes at a time, and they're not gone in 10 seconds with multiple offers. But if the forecast holds true and we see what Fannie Mae is predicting, which is that rates will be, 30-year fixed mortgage rates will be in the low 6s to high 5s by the end of this year, if that occurs, I don't know if that trend will stay the same. I don't know if inventory levels will stay where they are and days on markets will stay smooth. I think that could bring some buyers into the market that are currently on the sidelines waiting for affordability to improve. And if that happens, that will cause 2025 spring market to be red hot, and we could see some multiple offers, bidding contests again going into spring of 2025. So that's my 2 cents. I hope that brings value and gives you some information that you guys like to hear. And of course, anytime, message us, call, text, or email, and we'd be happy to give you data on your specific neighborhood and your specific county. I can run this pretty easily. It doesn't take much time for me. So if I can assist any of you with anything, just let us know. Thanks again. We appreciate you watching the video. If you like this kind of content, please like, subscribe, and we'll be posting more soon. Thanks again.